your user interface is perceived, displayed, and the psychology behind it all reigns supreme in meeting your customers' and users' needs and increasing the return on investment. Well, today we're going to chop it up about that and a little bit more because I got a little surprise for you at the end of this on this day 37 of 100 Days of ServiceNow. Hi, I'm your host, Kylie Alexander, and we are all the way live here on LinkedIn. So let me tell you about our special guests. Our special guests today are UIUX lead Tim Engstrom at GlideFast, as well as Associate Vice President of Professional Services and Certified Technical Architect David Engstrom. We are in for a real treat. So without further ado, let's welcome them to the stream. Welcome Tim and David to the stream.
Hi, Collie.
Thank you so much. Hey, Collie, how you doing?
Look, the only reason I asked y'all here was so I could blow those air horns. Thank you so much for joining the stream. I'm so delighted to have you all here. Now, we're talking about UI, UX, and the bottom line. Oftentimes people think about, oh, we just need to make it pretty. We need to have some fancy pictures, but that's not really what it's all about. And we're going to get into some of that. But before we do, David, I want to turn to you. If you can tell me a little bit about how you as a technical architect and how the team kind of works together, kind of give us a view on that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the flow sort of from Tim's team to the technical team is well, it's pretty seamless and it's pretty great. So Tim does his thing where he talks to the customer, finds out user information, finds out how the customer is using the tool and where their pain points may be. He's going to speak about his process a lot more than I can because that's not my process. But ultimately, what comes out of that interaction with the customer is a mock-up of what they want their portal to look like or what they need their portal to look like. And he'll pass that on to us. And then it's our job as the technical team to go in and replicate that look and feel that Tim has sort of pulled out of the customer. So yeah, it's really seamless, passes it on, and he's there for support throughout the rest of the project. So if we ever have to reach out and say, hey, we need to tweak this, or, what were you thinking when you got to this? We work with them along the entire time.
Yeah, I really appreciate that division of labor, so to speak, where you're handling the technical side of this, and Tim on the other side is making sure that that portal is giving what it needs to give in terms of the user interface. So that brings me to you, Tim. Tell me a little bit about how you define a good user experience, a good user interface.
Totally. There's good UX and there's good UI. And UI, I like to call this, it's the visual side. And a lot of people have that initial reaction right up front. But good user experience, if it's really good, you don't realize that it actually happened until you're through the process. And you get to the end and go, well, that was easy. Or hopefully you get to the point of going, I really enjoyed that. And I will definitely come back and continue doing this. Or even better yet, I'm going to share it with other people. And that's like my goal, hitting that desire.
Yeah. That makes me think of like that kind of word of mouth sort of marketing, or something is really good and you go to share it with someone else. I don't know if you saw this article, by the way. What you just said reminded me of this. HubSpot, they were coming for people's necks. They were talking about some user interfaces that were just trash, and these were like big names too, like Lipton. I think NYU was on there. It was a whole bunch of websites and portals that were on there, and they were saying like, this is not good because of this. You're going to frustrate your user, your customer with that. And what I'm hearing you talk about is like, look, you shouldn't even feel like you were going through or navigating through this. It should feel like it's a silky smooth experience. And I love hearing that. Can you tell me about how can investing in a user experience lead to higher return investments? How can investing in a UI, UX experience lead to a higher return investment? That's a big question. It may take a larger conversation.
Yeah. I like to tie ROI directly to the actions of people. People are going to drive you ROI just in the fact that they're your workers. They're the ones who are doing the work. And if they're interrupted, then they're not, moving towards the bottom line. So like in ServiceNow, people come to ServiceNow because they have problems they want to solve, whether it's ticketing, it's, getting knowledge, getting self-help. And if we can make that as seamless as possible, we can get users into a portal. They can get tickets, they can get resolution, they can get the knowledge that they need and get back to work. It's that seamlessness and fluidity that you're looking for to engage and get that productivity back to your workforce.
Indeed. I want to take a moment to shout out. We got 20 people here joining us live. I want to shout all of you out. I appreciate you joining us live. Those of you on the replay squad, I appreciate having you here. If you are joining us live, and even if you are on the replay team, I want you to go ahead and drop some blue hearts in the comments section, and I'm going to come back and shout you out in a moment. Okay, so what are the key differences between UX and a UI design? You kind of touched upon this a little bit at the very beginning. Maybe you can drill into that a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a huge pain point for me in that, and especially when people are looking for work in this industry, you go through job descriptions and you see looking for a UX designer, looking for a UI designer, and you read the job description and it really doesn't correlate with what I would define as UX and UI, just because there's no real process that says this is exactly what it is. But the difference is user interface is all about what you see. It's going to be that visual impact when you get there. It's identifying the brand. There's going to be some pleasing aesthetics behind it. On the other side, you get user experience, and that's what you feel. So it's going to be a little bit less tangible, but to me, it's so much more important. People that come away with a good feeling about something is going to resonate up the brand. It's going to elevate the business. It's going to create that advocacy from the user to drive that word of mouth. Because if you get a feeling, if it's a bad looking thing, but it feels great, you're still going to come back. But if it looks great and it feels bad, you're not going to come back.
I like what you said. True. It reminded me of a quote. Look, Tim, you got me. Every time you say something, it's like makes me think of something else. It reminds me of a quote from Maya Angelou. The quote goes something like this. If you guys in the chat know differently, hey, correct me. But as I recall, it goes something like, people will often forget what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And that's kind of how I'm equating what you said in terms of distinguishing user interface versus the user experience, which is all about how you make them feel, which is a little bit less tangible, but is everlasting. Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly. I mean, that feeling is pervasive, and you only have a little bit of time to establish that. Because it's like there's so much psychology and cognitive bias that goes into a user experience. And it's building more and more. I think last time I checked on a certain site, there was 106 different psychology principles and cognitive bias that relate to building a good user experience. And so it's like it's leaving this world of subjectivity into an actual objective science. And it's starting to make a big difference.
I like to hear how science and art are coming together and how you're able to better serve the needs of the customer. So that's really great news. I want to ask you also, how do you balance form and function in user experience?
Yeah. This is where I'm going to jump into metaphors, and I love metaphors. And anytime I do a workshop, it's like metaphors. One of the things that happened to me during COVID was my wife decided we need to learn to dance. Been doing that for 2 years. Love West Coast swing. I should just pitch that out there. It's so fun. But what I learned as a lead, and they keep on pushing this on us, is that, it's not about me. I'm there to make the other person look good and to make them feel good. And to me, that is so pervasive as far as a user. I'm there to build something that makes them look good, that makes them feel good. So what subtle cues can I drop in there to make it feel like they're driving the ship, that they're moving through in a purposeful, intentional way, so that when they get to the end, they feel success, they feel accomplishment. And to me, that's where it all just starts to come together. It's a puzzle. All the pieces are in place, and you just have something that they don't realize they did. They just feel successful. Again, feelings, I love them, and it's going to drive a successful ROI, because you're going to get people using your platform over and over again, doing the things you want them to do, but making them feel like they're the ones who did it.
That's great. I love that. And David, I want to turn to you right now. And, how can the use of prototyping increase the return investment for service portals?
Yeah. Right. So prototyping basically means that we're building an image of what we're going to build for the customer, an image of the website, but not a website actually, right? So it's just a snapshot of what we're going to be building for them. And we can build that way quicker than we can build an actual website, an actual portal. So prototyping allows us to iterate back and forth with the customer on small changes that need to be made that we don't have to invest a ton of time on. And it really gives us more confidence at the end that the design that we've gone with is what the customer wants, so that we're not having a back and forth and wasting money, right? Wasting time,
Sure.
because time is money with the customer. So before we had this program in place, before Tim came on and really started this effort, prototyping wasn't a thing that we did, and we'd build what the customer wanted us to build in live time. And if tweaks had to be made, that's just more time that we're investing in the total build. So this really does give us, at the end of the day, it helps the customer in the long run, because we're spending less time on that iteration.
Right. You mentioned saving time, and time is money. And you also mentioned that, before bringing Tim on and investing and really building out this effort, which brings me to this. What are people getting when they're bringing in GlideFast as a partner to actualize their UI/UX experience that they're not able to get anywhere else?
Right. Well, gosh, the things I could list they're getting whenever they get GlideFast, right? Because they're getting nearly 600 of the top minds in the industry. Because we all work as a team. We're never one person. But yeah, what they're getting from, Tim is an expert with 25 years of experience. So they're getting Tim's expertise and his team's expertise. So his team has taken on everything that Tim has learned as well, because Tim is their guide. And really passing that on to the best architects and the best developers, or the best consultants in the business. So they're getting nothing short of amazingness and outstandingness from us. Yeah.
Hey. Okay, look. I say that I'm only gonna do the air horn at the beginning of the stream, but y'all keep dropping these bombs, and I can't let them go and acknowledge. Okay, but but with
Love it.
that said, I know that you all have a webinar that's coming up on June 29th, 2023. David, can you tell us a little bit, and Tim, feel free to jump in here as well, about what folks can expect at this free webinar?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to go into more detail with what we've been talking about today, really the return on investment of user experience, good user experience. And, we're going to go into some numbers. We're going to go into some sort of, when you see the numbers, you're going to be a little bit wowed, because, some of the return on investment metrics that are out there around UX are kind of mind boggling. So yeah, we're going to go into that. We're going to go into the how and the why of those numbers. And ultimately, we're going to talk about our process a little bit more and just go into more detail than what we've gone in here.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So, folks, if you're interested, your organization needs an overhaul, or if you're curious about what we're talking about here when it comes to UI, UX, and how your organization can integrate that into your service portal experience, this is the place to be. So you can either take your phone right now and scan this QR code on your screen. And if you happen to be looking at this on your phone, no worries, because this link is also in the description of this video. Tim, I want to go back to you. How do you determine what design elements to prioritize in your UX design?
No, that's great. That's great. For me, for the business, prioritization is driven by two things. There's the users, and then there's the business requirements, and they play a lot against each other. ServiceNow portals are what I call people problems. We're trying to solve their problems so that they can get back to work. And those problems a lot of times revolve around business requirements and goals that the companies want. So we're doing a balancing act there of what does the user want to do and what does the business need them to do. So we juggle a little bit, we prioritize and make sure that the users are being kept happy and that we're guiding them through to solve these business requirements. So kind of an ambiguous answer, but it's the two priorities of the business requirements and the people, and finding that equilibrium that has delight and it has ROI.
Yeah, I love that answer. It reiterates the importance of working with the customer as a partner and bringing this kind of evolution about, and I really appreciate that. Perhaps you can share a little bit about UX design strategies you use to improve customer engagement and loyalty?
Yeah, and this is actually where we start shifting a little bit, because it retention and loyalty to me are all about gamification. And that's still part of the user experience. I think it's a little bit lesser known, maybe less desirable because the word game is in there. But we are trying to drive them in and find these feedback loops that create that sense of delight. And to me, that's where you really start to get those really successful platforms, is where, little bells, little whistles, things that are unexpected, so that the user can come in and go, oh, just that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't want a big wow. I just want to, and it'll help drive them through to get the big relief of, I did something, I accomplished something. And the more we get into that, the more, again, we get that advocacy. And to me, that is one of the hugest parts of retention and engagement, is when they are talking about the platform in a positive way, we're driving more people to the platform, get in that feedback loop, and then jump back out to advocate again.
Wow, wow. Okay,
Mhm.
so maybe you can tell me a little bit more about your approach to designing a user experience that caters to both the novice as well as the experienced user.
Oh yeah, yeah. So there's a scaffolding approach that I like to take. So when a user comes in, they're a novice. We need to learn them, and there's a concept called flow, and I always mispronounce the guy's name, is Michele Csikszentmihalyi, or it's Csikszentmihalyi Chicksen. It's it's strange, but it's creating this level of effort that borderlines too much work with boredom. And you have that fine line of bringing them through, challenging them, and growing them. And on this scaffolding thing, you're giving them the tools to be successful, while also encouraging them to reach out and to help others. So you start as a novice, you end up as a mentor. And it's like that's a huge feedback loop that, again, I'm coming back to the big word of advocacy, where they start to preach about your platform, and they start to help others through the platform, to those little hurdles they encountered, so that you have the users self problem solving hurdles that you didn't encounter or think of during the original build.
Sure, indeed. And finally, before we get out of here, I do want to again remind folks that, look, there is a free webinar that's taking place June 29th. That's next week if you're joining me live or watching this on the day of the stream. That is completely free. You're going to get a little bit more information, and David and Tim are going to get a little bit more into this during this webinar. To join the webinar, you want to be sure that you click the QR code on the screen. And if you're watching this on mobile, no worries. I've left the sign up link in the description to this video. Space is limited. It is actually free, so you want to be sure that you sign up soon, sign up early, sign up today. Let's go on back. And I'm going to let you all go because I know that you have lots of things that you are building right now. So final question. ITIL 4 principles are pervasive in the GlideFast world, right? So I'm curious about, how do you continuously iterate and improve a UX design to ensure maximum ROI?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I'm coming in and I'm really advocating for, is initially when we work with clients, we have a build. We go through a process, we problem solve, we look for pain points, we identify the users, and we, what I call our initial assumptions, and we build off of that. And this comes down to prototyping, where if we can get prototyping in front of the users, we can get some quick initial feedback. It's not real life feedback, but it does help validate some assumptions. The next step, and this is where I'm really pushing to get some more clients to do this, is to have like a 3-month and a 6-month checkup, where we can actually look at some hard data from analytics, and we can verify that with user surveys to see, were there bottlenecks we didn't identify? Are there roadblocks? Are there flows that users are creating that we didn't anticipate? And then we can start to iron them out with tiny little changes that have big impact. So that's where I want to go. And hopefully we'll get there, get more clients in to do this. It creates a more healthy environment for the users. And in the end, it's going to increase your ROI more as it grows.
Indeed, indeed. I appreciate you having an eye on what's taking place right now, as well as having an eye on the future, as where we can go and how this is going to benefit the client and their customers, the end user. So I appreciate you. Look, Tim Engstrom, UIUX lead at GlideFast, and David Arbour, Associate Vice President of Professional Services and Certified Technical Architect at GlideFast. I want to thank you all for joining me in the stream, and I will see you at the webinar.
Wonderful. Thank
Thanks,
you, Colleen.
Colleen.
All right,
We
take it
appreciate the
easy.
time. Thanks.
Appreciate you
All right, bye.
appreciate you coming. Whoa, 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 whoa. Listen, if you have not done so already, you want to be sure to attend this webinar. If your organization's service portal is on the struggle bus, this webinar is especially for you. I talked to both Tim and David offline, and they were going through all of the data about, how this is like statistical, how this is mathematical. Some of these user experiences can look really glossy and pretty, nice pictures, kind of fancy fonts, but that may not be the best bet for the end user. So if you want more information on how to up-level your service portal, that webinar is the place to be. So until next time, be kind and stay curious. See you next time. Bye.